talk that, yeah, it would be great to invite Jakub to share his knowledge about marketing. We met in Poland in a couple of events. So yeah, it was like a unofficial start even. So it's great that it's great you're here, and it's great that you know you can share the knowledge. Hopefully it will be very interesting. So welcome.
Hello everyone, and also thank you, Richardas, for having me here. I'm Jakub, and my speech today is how to and why create a marketing strategy for your game. And a small disclaimer, this is a topic that could easily be talked about for like 3 or 4 hours, but I have only like 40 minutes. So there is going to be like plenty of info. And I would say that technically this is a very poorly made presentation because there is a lot of text in it. Because I simply wanted to share as much knowledge as possible. However, do not fret, there is going to be a QR code by the end so you can download the PDF. So yeah, a quick overview of it. Here is the small section, what are we going to talk about? So what and why, and we are going to talk about the concept of a marketing strategy as a whole. Then we are going to talk about the title, the elevator pitch and the elevator story, genre and technicalities, USPs, which stands for unique selling points and features, emotions, channels of communication, target audience and sales persona. I also included a couple of bad jokes in the presentation, and elements of branding. And as a point of reference, I'm going to use a game called Trajes Fatais, Suits of Fate, because nobody has ever heard of it, so it's going to be quite a good neutral ground for talking about. And there are some things that they do well, there are some things that they don't do so well. So it's an interesting case study. So yeah, for the purpose of this speech, a marketing strategy is a document that has the basic info about the game, its brand, and the tangible and intangible characteristics of the game. It may serve a variety of purposes, which will be explained on the next slide. And a short little thing, these tangible and intangible characteristics of the game are basically over here. You know, things like the elevator pitch, emotions, USPs, whatnot. Right, so why would anyone want a marketing strategy? And there is a couple of good reasons. So firstly, to use it as a basis for creating other internal documents. Secondly, to use it as a guideline or a template for external communication, to ensure consistent messaging to the outside. This is actually one of the hardest things to do in marketing, to be like consistently good, right? To have a document describing the game independently from the GDD, to have some sort of additional documentation that can be used to quickly show the new employees what the game is and how it is marketed. And to have it as a bargaining chip while talking about funding and publishing. Right, so the first thing is the title, because every game has to have a title, right? So in other words, I would say keep it short, keep it sweet. Unless you have a very good reason to do so, stick to English or a proper name, noun. Some exceptions can be applied under certain circumstances. So for example, you're making a game that is to be released in a geographically specific area, which mostly applies to games released exclusively in Japan and Korea, or to games localized for the Chinese market. Or secondly, it's a part of a series and you need to keep the IP intact. In case of having a subtitle, it shouldn't be too long and needs to be relevant to the game and the audience. Good examples are the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim and Need for Speed Underground 2. And the name should be unique enough to make the game easily discoverable, but not too confusing, and we'll get to the confusing part. Here are a couple of examples of what I would say good titles. Okay, so the first one is Celeste. A single word, it's relevant to the game, it sounds nice and whatnot. The second example is Iron Lung. This sounds menacing, and menacing is exactly what we would expect from a horror game which takes place within a tiny submarine. And you also swim in the ocean of blood in this game. And the third title that I chose as a good one is Hotshot Racing, because you can, like, right off the bat, expect certain things from this title, and this game really delivers them. Here are what I would say are the bad examples. The Trajes Fatais, which I've mentioned, kind of is flawed because the first two words are in Portuguese, and both segments of the title mean the exact same thing. So, so if translated entirely to Portuguese, it would be Trajes Fatais, Trajes Fatais, and if translated entirely into English, it would be Suits of Fate, Suits of Fate. The other title that I would say is not good is Haha, because this doesn't really tell us anything about the game, does it? And yeah, good luck finding it on Google. And the third title is a bit odd because this is an old, I think, Sega CD game or something like that. It's called Star Trek Starfleet Academy Starship Bridge Simulator, and it is like pretty long, but the thing that really irks me about it is having two subtitles. There is no need for that. And I do realize this game was made in the 90s and plenty has changed since then. But yeah, this is an interesting remnant of the times when people were still figuring stuff out. I've also included problematic examples. So the first problematic example is Fear and Hunger, which is a phenomenal title. However, it uses the ampersand, which is the and symbol. So it can be a little bit problematic to look up because it uses what is basically referred to as a special symbol. And also good luck finding it on Steam through conventional means. The other problematic title is Shin Megami Tensei 9, which is a little bit of a long title, but all right, Shin Megami Tensei is a strong and established IP, so it's all right. However, it has the word 9 in the title, and it's not the 9th game in the series. And another problematic example is Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus. So there are like two problems with this title. The first one is the use of the plus, which is a special sign. And the other one is the fact that it kind of restarted an IP from the 80s called Xanadu, made by Falcom, if I recall correctly. And it has nothing to do with the old games. So it can be a little bit misleading. I also have two ridiculous examples. Yeah, so let's start with hand Dick. Dick stands for dictionary. And we also have summer-colored high school star emoji adolescent record a summer at school on an island where I contemplate how the first day after I transferred, I ran into a childhood friend and was forced to join the journalism club where while my days as a paparazzi kid with great scoops made me rather popular among the girls, but strangely my camera is full of panty shots and where my candid romance is going. As you can see, it's not very catchy and it uses an emoji which is even worse than a special sign. Yeah, you can also see the box art. All of these little characters over there are pretty much syllables, so yeah, it's all over the place. Right, let's move on to the elevator pitch and elevator story. And the elevator pitch is it's basically a short description of a game. I would say 1 to 3 sentences long. It should clearly show what a game is and what it is not. And it can talk a little bit about the story. And here is the example I've written for Trajes Fatais Suits of Fate. And here it is. Trajes Fatais Suits of Fate is a pixel art 2D fighting game inspired by the classics of the genre from the 90s. You'll choose a character who attends a costume party and fights other guests. The game has a high pace, simple controls, and satisfying mechanics. And now we'll go on to analyze these things. Sentence by sentence, basically. So yeah, it is a pixel art 2D fighting game inspired by the classics of the genre from the 90s. So we do know it is a pixel art style game. It's a 2D fighting game like Street Fighter, and it is inspired by the 90s classics. So we definitely know that it is pretty close from this description to Street Fighter 2, let's say. And what do we know it is not? It has no 3D graphics, at least in core gameplay. It's not like Tekken because it is a 2D fighting game, not a three-dimensional fighting game with three-dimensional movement. And it's not a racing game, an RPG, or something else. So yeah, pretty much all of that was conveyed in this very first sentence. Now let's move on to the second sentence. You will choose a character who attends a costume party and fights other guests. So what do you know? It will take place at a costume party. You can accept whimsy and fun, and also fighting. And what do we know not to expect? It's probably not going to be grim or serious. And yeah, this is basically it. And the third sentence is, the game has a high pace, simple controls, and satisfying mechanics. So what do we know? We should expect quick gameplay. It shouldn't be too hard to grasp, and kicking your enemies in the face will have a hefty feeling. And what do we know not to expect? It shouldn't be overly complex. It's probably not going to be slow and patiently methodical, and we won't break our fingers doing special moves. And over there is a very infamous Raging Storm input from King of Fighters. And this is how it looks like. So I do believe that this little elevator pitch kind of did it justice. However, keep the look of it in mind, because I've also made a bad example. So Trajes Fatais is a crazy and stylish experience inspired by the Rio de Janeiro Carnival. Because of become one of the party guests and go through an exceptional journey. The game has a high pace, simple controls, and satisfying mechanics. So yeah, this basically tells me nothing, because this could be applied to pretty much any game which uses the Rio de Janeiro Carnival as an inspiration. And also interestingly, the third sentence is the exact same as in the good version. However, without providing any context for that, we simply don't know what it means. It conveys nothing. And here is an additional example for The Binding of Isaac. It's basically old school Zelda meets bullet hell. It also has Satan. And the elevator story is pretty much the same thing as the elevator pitch, but longer. It's like 2 to 3 short paragraphs. And here you can see the example that Trajes Fatais is a 2D fighting game inspired by the, and yada yada yada. So yeah, this is basically it. And slightly longer, let's say, copies like elevator story can sometimes be useful for creating a more fleshed out piece of content, like, for example, a Steam description of a game. Okay, now let's move on to the genre and technicalities. So a clear definition of what is the genre of the game and what its degree of complexity is will greatly influence what the game is and is going to be, and for whom it is going to be. And remember, I'm going to use plenty of generalization in this segment to make sure to adjust it to your needs. So we can agree probably that most console games are usually in the mid to hardcore segment, usually. Most mobile games are hyper casual, usually, and there are also games that are quite universal, like, for example, Slay the Spire. And choosing one genre will greatly influence 3 things. Keeping a clearly defined set of goals and expectations, aiming for a more or less defined target audience, and choosing your market niche. Because one of the main problems that I've noticed plenty of indie teams face is too big of a scope for a studio with not enough workforce and budget, or something that sounds nice on paper but doesn't make much sense in practice. Choosing a genre or a mix of them will greatly influence the market viability of your game. I'd say marketing starts before you whip up a GDD. Keep it in mind when you come up with an idea for your game. It's good to work on your dream projects, but it would be nicer to build some stability and income first before you opt for riskier and more experimental projects. Right, so here are pretty well-defined games in terms of genres. We have Dusk, which is a really great boomer shooter. We have Age of History 2, which is a 4X strategy. And we also have Trajes Fatais, Suits of Fate, which is a 2D fighting game. Here are the bad examples. And these are actually quite different from each other, because we have Kowloon High School Chronicle, which is a dungeon crawler and a puzzle game and a visual novel, and it flopped when it got released, I think in like 2005 on PS2. But over time, it became a cult classic, and actually, the game is now available on computers and on the Switch, if I recall correctly. And people really do enjoy it. However, it took them like 20 years for the game to be successful, which is yeah, a bit long. And we also have Mortal Kombat Deception, and nobody likes this game because this is a 3D fighting game and an RPG, and it also has a chess mode, and it has a karting mode, like a very grim version of Mario Kart, and it didn't become a cult classic. Here are some problematic examples. I've bunched up 20 minutes till dawn, Be My Horde, and Death Must Die as survivor likes, and there is like nothing inherently wrong with this particular genre. However, this is a niche that gets saturated really, really quickly, and it has plenty of good quality over there. So I would say that trying to make a survivor likes game probably would take at least like 8 months to a year, and the market is getting saturated more and more each day. So the viability of such a project will simply deteriorate over time, and because Vampire Survivors has such a low price, it can kind of lowball the prices of the entire genre. And also another problematic example, Doom 3, a good game, but many people don't call it a good Doom game. So yeah, we have still people playing Doom 1, Doom 2, but nobody really plays Doom 3, and this is a game that basically forced the series to be rebooted in 2016. Right, so now a little bit about technicalities. It is important for your game to work well. Keep in mind that there are some genres that use some features that can be differently implemented, like both Counter-Strike and Unreal Tournament are multiplayer FPS games, but because they are like absolutely different. It may not be a bad idea to make a generic, in regard to mechanics and technicalities game. However, sticking to FPSs, keep in mind that there are probably other games that do the exact same thing as yours, but better. So you need to stand out from the crowd. And on the other hand, try to not focus too much on technicalities when it comes to your normal marketing communications. And let's say that you make a fighting game and it has rollback netcode, which is a big deal. However, people who are not in the know, who are not a part of the fighting games community, have no idea what rollback netcode is. And at the very best, they will glance over, and at the worst, they will be confused about you talking about rollback netcode. So yeah, moving on to USPs and features. USPs, which means unique selling points, are the characteristics of the product that can be enticing for your prospective buyers. And they can range from mechanics, art, story, technicalities. And here I have 3 examples of USPs. So the first one is the Roman cancel from Guilty Gear. And you can basically cancel your character's animations to extend combos, get out of hairy situations, and plenty more. And this is pretty much a very unique mechanic in the world of fighting games. So people who like playing fighting games really do vibe with Guilty Gear and its insane technical depth. The next thing is, for example, the physics engine in BeamNG, which is probably the most detailed and realistic damage model ever seen in a car simulator, and pretty much everything about Disco Elysium. So yeah, if you played it, you know. And you need to remember that important and core concepts of your game may be key, but won't necessarily be USPs, or at least they won't be USPs to their full extent. So, for example, there are some concepts and ideas so broad and obvious in some genres that they are treated like a standard. It's almost imperative to have them, but they won't be USPs due to their prevalence and when compared to your competition. So, for example, well, I have actually 3 examples: many guns in a boomer shooter, vulnerabilities and resistances in JRPGs and SRPGs, and driving wheel support in racing games. Now we are moving to the more intangible thing, which is emotions. As we all know, games invoke and pass different emotions, And sometimes the border between invoking and passing is not clear, sometimes it is. A big issue with this aspect of the strategy is that it can't be objectively defined, sorry about that, as emotions are subjective and often established in a cultural concept. So we have three examples. Going from the left, we have Darkest Dungeon. Who has played Darkest Dungeon? Does it feel dreadful and challenging? Yeah, I believe we can probably all agree on that. The second screenshot is from a Doom mod called Grezzo 2, which is an Italian Doom mod, which is like crafted all around the concept of being the most offensive thing imaginable. But it only works for Italian. For me, it's ridiculous and hilarious. Sorry, and the third one is To the Moon, which is like really an emotional roller coaster and a phenomenal example of a game that knows well what to do with emotions. A great example of a game that operates heavily on emotions is Cult of the Lamb, however. It's not afraid to reach into loads of different places and to juxtapose these emotions. Small, cute animals getting sacrificed in your bid for godhood, and this really goes a long way. The graphic style is reminiscent of cartoons, and I do believe it really helps with these massive contrasts that the game presents to the player. Okay, moving on to the communication channels. It is imperative to decide where and how the game will be communicated. So the most important communication channels include social media in various communities, influencers, the press, events, showcases, conferences, storefronts, and paid ads. And here are a couple of examples of actually using communication channels after putting quite a lot of thought into that. So if we are making a mahjong targeted towards the Chinese market, we wouldn't necessarily want to opt for Facebook or Twitter, as people can't access them without a VPN, and it's illegal anyway over there. So it would be a better idea to opt for the domestic social media platforms like Weibo or Douyin, which are basically Twitter and TikTok. Douyin is exactly the same thing as TikTok, but Chinese. If we had a beautiful game with lovely static art, but not an awful lot of eye-catching action, it could be a good idea to opt for Imgur and Reddit rather than TikTok and Instagram Reels. And if we were making a game for the Russian market, we would not only know to use VK as its leading social media platform there, but also have our content translated into Russian, because some markets are pretty notorious for the need to have content translated into their own language. And I'm actually working for one of my clients who really wants to tap into the I would say sub-Saharan and subcontinental markets. So we are, for example, going to do a big press release in the upcoming weeks, and we are going to focus heavily on those markets because we do see quite a lot of potential over there, which isn't usually done. So this is a small example of me applying these principles. Right. So when it comes to the target audience, you know, as games are expected to be played by various people, it is important to recognize which sets of similarly characterized people will be most interested in your game. And such a set of people is called a target audience. And some of the mentioned characteristics include sex/gender, age, usually expressed as a range, interests and similar games, location and language. And knowing who is in your target audience allows you to better understand how to market your game, which languages you should translate your game into, how to design the monetization model, or even what sorts of designs you should include in or exclude from your game. And here are two examples, very different from each other. We have Blasphemous 2. So we can probably say that fans of horrors, occult, religion and pixel art are going to be interested. Most likely males in the 20 to 40 age range. I was eyeballing it, but I reckon it checks out. Have played Metroid, Hollow Knight, Axiom Verge, and such things. Basically, Metroidvanias. Dark Souls and Souls-like players may also be interested. And I suppose that mostly people in Europe and the USA are going to be interested in this game. And a very, very, very different game, Fishing Clash. I used to do social media and community management for that game. I would say that the target audience for this game were people who like fishing, nature, hunting. Almost, I wouldn't say exclusively, but a vast majority of the player base were 40 plus males who liked casual games with high competitiveness, which can be achieved. However, it's a little bit tricky, and also mostly Europe and the USA. And you know, it's very easy to talk about having a target audience, but it's usually quite problematic to actually find your target audience. And there are like 4 ways to do that. One of them I do not recommend at all, which is eyeballing it, which I did for Blasphemous 2. And eyeballing usually just assumes some characteristics and making a game that fits them. The second one is extremely tedious and can be very biased, which is collect data of a representative sample of your competitors' player bases and craft a set of characteristics that will be the ones you will abide by. And this practically means going through a couple hundred Facebook profiles or Twitter profiles of random people who have your competition liked, and trying to find some general characteristics of such a sample. The third one, and this is my favorite one, is A/B tests. And A/B testing is actually a very good practice, which is usually used in the world of paid advertisement. So how it would work? We would make a small, like a small gameplay mockup, for example, and we would go to, let's say, Facebook, because meta ads are really pretty good, and we would run 2 ads with just the creative, maybe with the same copy as well. However, we would the thing that would be different between these 2 particular ads would be the target group. And basically, through testing and seeing who is the most interested in the game, we will be able to really nail down and determine what the target audience is. And to see who is the most interested, we usually look at CTR in this case, which is the click-through rate. And the most expensive one, probably the best as well, just hire a marketing research firm. And there are like marketing agencies that just exclusively do market research, and they are probably way better than just running A/B tests. But we are probably talking about 5 digits dollar prices for doing a big research for a game. Yeah, the sales persona is a tool some marketers use to judge the quality of their content. It is a crafted person who is a representative of the target audience, and it is usually used in the following manner. A marketer makes a piece of content, and then they look at the sales persona and think, is this fella going to like what I've done? And this is literally it. And here is an example for Labyrinth of Refrain. So I used ChatGPT to toss some personal data at me. And we have Alex Rivers, who is 28, is a junior software developer in Seattle, Washington. Sorry, I don't know. He plays on PC and the Switch. He likes JRPGs and SRPGs. He likes reading manga, watching anime, attending comic conventions, online D&D sessions, customizing PC setups, and also likes working out and football. Favorite games are Unicorn Overload, Final Fantasy Tactics, and Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. Weak points: doesn't like non-anime stuff, doesn't have a lot of money and hooks, responsive to humor, likes complex games, responds well to anime aesthetics. And when it comes to good old Alex, I suppose that he belongs to the target audience for the Labyrinth of Refrain. So we can see a very stereotypical thing for Japanese dungeon crawlers. Three demonic crabs and anime people below them. And I do believe that if Alex saw this, would be like, hell yeah. Here's another bad persona joke. Some elements of branding. I'm not going to talk about all of them. However, branding in general is a set of characteristics of a brand, and the brand abides by them. And while we could delve into topics such as values, mission statements, and such, we'll focus on its visual aspects. A brand should have the following things, at the very least: a logo and its varietals, selected fonts, a color palette, and having a content template for social media and such stuff would also be pretty nice. And these things make sure that we can consistently produce content that represents our game accurately and well. And this is pretty much the end of it. So a little bit about me. I'm Jakub. I've been working in the industry since 2016. I run a small agency called Heaps Agency, where pretty much I do all the marketing. And if you are inclined to do so, please download the presentation via the QR code. You can also contact me on email or via LinkedIn. This is more or less it. And do we maybe have some questions regarding this topic of marketing strategy?
Sorry.
Thank you. I have a question. I come from marketing background myself, and I was watching this and wanted to ask, what is like unique characteristics of marketing video game in your opinion? Thanks.
Right. So when it comes to the unique characteristics of video game marketing, I would say that we are looking at a very B2C thing that does have a couple of unique quirks. So, for example, one of the most mind-boggling things for marketers from different backgrounds is that, for example, there is pretty much no SEO. Well, maybe under some very, very, very specific circumstances, but there is like pretty much no SEO. SEM is also very limited for the most part. There is a bit of copywriting, however, nobody really works as a copywriter because people who do marketing for video games usually tend to wear many, many, many hats at the same time. And I would say that one of the biggest differences is the active use of ASO, which is App Store Optimization, which is, in this particular case, pretty much SEO for the Steam. It is also, I would say that the video games marketing in general is kind of made of two very different things. Because we have the mobile side of things and the PC and console side of things. And the mobile side of things is extremely data-driven. Plenty of marketing, of mobile game studios don't even have a marketing team, or at least they don't really call them marketing. They usually call them growth, because this is what they want to achieve. So I would say that, for example, in a game, in a studio that makes mobile games, you wouldn't really expect to see a community manager, but you can expect to see pretty much an army of UA specialists, which is user. Bloody hell, I forgot what it. Yes, acquisition. Thanks. Yeah, an army of user acquisition specialists, and also. I would say that the PC and the console side of things severely lack data. So let's say for the more conventional games, which are basically not mobile, there is a surprising lot of stuff that you kind of have to just estimate and wing it. So I would say that in general, the biggest difference between video games marketing and marketing in general is the lack of SEO and the use of ASO. And there are also two extremely different subsets of marketers in the industry, depending on the platform that the game is delivered to. Also, one more small detail. An interesting thing about the split between the mobile marketers and the PC and console marketers is that, for example, when the mobile marketers run ads, the main KPI is usually CPI, which is cost per install, and we unfortunately do not really have this comfort in the console and PC side of things. So we usually look at CPM or CPC, and then we try to estimate what exactly are the sales numbers, what is the traffic. However, Steam finally allowed us, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, to use UTM links, which I wouldn't necessarily call a game changer, but a bare minimum to finally start tracking stuff.
Okay, sorry, I missed the beginning of questions.
All right, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I have a quick question from the indie side of things. So what would be the most cost-effective or value per dollar method for a small indie studio with no marketing budget or very limited marketing budget to really get their game out there and start getting the sales or perhaps even the advertising data from their game? Thank you.
No worries. I wouldn't say there's a one good answer to that. Because a lot of stuff depends on what sort of a game it is. So let's say that there's for example this one game at the hole below that I love, and it's called Kyo, and pretty much no one has heard of it because they wanted to choose a niche genre for themselves, and they opted for a 2D stealth puzzle game. And it's absolutely phenomenal. It plays well. It has a cool story, cool world. So they pretty much did the most important thing, which is to make a good game, right? But people are simply not interested. So I would say that the most cost-effective thing an indie studio can do is to do plenty of market research. Usually just done by scraping data from Steam or using some platforms that do that for you, and trying to make a game in a genre that is viable and that is better than its competitors, because people then are probably more likely to simply enjoy it. So yeah, a short answer is try to make a game that is as good and as marketably viable as possible.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, hello, I'm Victoria, and I want to ask, is it okay to combine like two really different genres of the game? For example, visual novel and action. And what I want to say, for example, if it will lead to some action scene, the game graphic will change to like 3D point of view, and then it will be returned to visual novel, or it's better not to combine some really different genres. Thank you.
Hello, Victoria. A small personal note. My wife's name is Victoria as well, so I have good memories of that name. When it comes to combining genres, this is an interesting topic, and I would say that people are usually quite interested in things that take something familiar and put a twist on it. And a combination of a visual novel and an action game, but rather more with more focus put on the action on the action side of things, was Neon White. This is one of my favorite games, and it also sold plenty of copies. And this is a combination of a visual novel with a speedrunning platformer FPS game, which is absolutely of its chops when we think about the combination, but it works very well. So I would say that unless it's something absolutely ridiculous, like, I don't know, a turn-based racing game, it's probably going to be. I reckon it's going to be a pretty good selling point. However, the most important thing is to deliver the quality. So if it's all balanced and fun and whatnot, I can see that there could be quite a lot of potential in something like that. However, it of course needs to be researched and whatnot.
Thanks. There was more, yeah.
Hi, Jakub. My name is Vytautas. I represent GameDev Fund. I wanted to provoke you a bit, if you will allow me.
Go on.
Actually, I really liked your insights, especially about these names, and they were really weird ones, I would say. But don't you think that sometimes weird name or description can even help for the game to create buzz and viral effect, you know?
Oh yes, certainly, of course. There are some very well documented examples of that. Like, actually, let me Google it because I can't say the name of the game out of the top of my head. It had something to do with milk and bags.
I can use the minute to promote one, game with weird name, which is in adult zone in the second area. So if you are N plus 18, so go and try. Maybe you've seen already.
Yeah. So the game I was looking for is called Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. Yeah. Yeah, and it's an absolutely stellar game. It is, I would say, it can be a good thing, right? But I was talking about marketing strategy in general. And generally, the best practice is to keep it short and to keep it sweet. I'm not saying that all that I said is like 100% correct for all games and for all studios, because studios and games are pretty much like people. There are different needs, different approaches, and if someone has enough faith and has a good enough product, and simply wants to be a little bit confusing and start talking about milk in a horror game, then I believe it's fair game. However, I would say that this is definitely a riskier approach than what I have presented.
Yeah, and the title of that game is Genital Jousting, so it's very obvious, but yeah, you should try if you are up for these things. Yeah, it's in the second building, like the old building. Old, I keep saying old, yeah.
Yeah, but you see, short and sweet, just 2 words, and you can expect some things from that, right?
Yeah, it's very direct.
Yeah.
So yeah, more. Do we have time? I don't have my phone.
I have no clue. It's 10 to 1.
Okay, so let's do 1 or 2 questions if we have shorter ones.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Adomas. This is my first time in one of these lectures, live actually. I'm starting to do vector and graphic works and logos and stuff. And logos and fonts were mentioned, and I want to ask from the side of the marketing department. In logo creation, it is very, very important usually to just have a kind of a document, as you said, like in a game where it's all the layouts and things and the ratios and everything. How does that help? How would that help with marketing? What could the marketing team usually expect or tell what should I aim for. Usually, maybe there's some sort of a communication the marketing department could tell to the designers. Thank you.
I would say that having these templates and having your brand on point is pretty much all about having consistent content that looks nice and can allow your game to be identified easily, even while just doom scrolling through social media. So it is a part of building brand awareness and of doing it right, I would say. Right. Do we have any more questions? Okay.
Great. Yeah.
It seems that we don't. So as we are here, if you happen to have any more questions about marketing, I'm going to be strolling around the halls today. So feel free to catch me. And also, I do realize that there are plenty of publishers, plenty of indies and whatnot, and some things work for some people and for some studios, and others don't. So I think that's a very great value of such events is to just talk to people and make connections and learn from each other. This was my presentation, and thank you all for attending.